You're listening to the On the Daily podcast. This is your host, Danielle McCleary. And on today's episode, I am talking about how to navigate the dips in your business. So this could be a financial dip. This could be an energetic dip. This could just be what you're perceiving as a dip. Either way, there are things you can do about it, and it may not be as bad as you think. So if you are currently navigating a dip or have navigated dips in your business, this episode is going to be for you. So make sure you listen in. You know, there's something that I don't talk about it a lot, or I do talk about it a lot, but I'm not always making it obvious that I'm talking about it a lot. And that is manifestation, and manifestation from an actual scientific perspective, talking about things like the quantum field and how to actually manifest the things that you want into your life and what that looks like in reality, what that looks like in practice. And it's something that I've been doing for the last decade, but actually focused on it for the last 5 years. And what I can say is the thing that is holding most people back between where they're at now in their dream life is the fact that they are unwilling to look outside of what is their current reality. And part of that is to look into the quantum field and realize that the possibilities for what you actually want to achieve in your life are absolutely endless. And in order to actually have access to everything inside of the quantum field, you really do have to be willing to kind of break up with older versions of yourself. You have to be willing to dig deep into your reptilian brain or your subconscious mind and rewire it in a way that allows your conscious brain to make different decisions. And that's what I've been doing so much over the last 5 to 10 years. And that's why there's been so many different versions of me. I feel like people who knew me 10 years ago are like, you have just completely, it's been like a glow up, but not even physical. Like, yes, I look physically different than I did 10 years ago, but it's like the way that I act, it's the way that I think, it's the way that I move. It's not what I know, it's why I think the way I do. And that, I think, is what has helped me to build the business that I've built, but also to create the relationships and have the impact I've had. And so what I've done is I've taken all of that knowledge and I really want to give it to I want to give it outward, and I don't really want it to have anything to do with business. I want it to be about creating the life that you want and being willing to kind of step into a newer version of yourself. And that is why I've created the I'm That Bitch 3-week mini mastermind. And so it's 3 weeks long in August. We start August 8th. This is going to be ran like a mastermind. So we're going to have group calls. We're going to have a group chat where we get to, really connect with one another and really, get to know each other on a very deep level. I'm not just interested in like talking on Zoom for 3 hours and calling it a course. That's what it was going to be. But I really want to build like a community, and I really want to build connection. And so what we're going to be doing in this mini mastermind is we're really going to dive into our subconscious mind and really figure out where are the things that we have just accepted as normal with us that are keeping us from the life that we want, and really break free and break through a lot of those barriers. And I'm going to help you do it. And you're also going to get to meet 9 other women. I'm only going to take 10 people in this container, and the price is going to continue to go up. We start August 8th. I want you in there if this is something that you're interested in. Like, if you are just stuck in this constant pattern of comparison or blame or shame, or you find yourself getting mad or triggered easily, this is the kind of work that you need. It's because there is an old version of you trying to drive the car, and whenever you go to level up, that old version of you is still hanging on so tightly that it's keeping you from the growth that you want and desire. And that is what I want to dive into, and I want to help you reframe so that you can manifest the absolute best, highest version of your life, whatever that looks like for you, right? So if you want to come into that container or know more about it, go ahead and DM me on Instagram at Danielle_on-the-daily, or you can email my team, hey@DanielleMcCleary.com. We will get you hooked up with the application process and, get you in and going so you can join us and start with us on August 8th. There's only a few spots left, and I really want you in there if this is something that you are just ready to let go of once and for all. So reach out if that's something you want to do, and I will see you inside. All right, let's get to this episode. So the dips in business, right? Danielle, I'm having a dip in business. How do I get out of it? Well, the first thing I want you to understand is that the like dips, right? They're natural. This is part of the natural ebb and flow of business. It's part of expansion and contraction, yin and yang, right? It's as real as gravity. It's a universal law called the universal law of rhythm. And if the best way I can explain the universal law of rhythm is through contraction and expansion. And in order to do that, I'm going to teach you how to breathe. So if you were to take a big breath right now, go ahead and take a big, giant, deep breath in through your nose. And keep breathing in and keep breathing in and keep breathing in. And if I just told you to breathe in forever, what would happen? Right? You wouldn't be able to. You'd have to eventually exhale. And that exhale would be just as big and long, hopefully, as the inhale or longer. And so when we talk about the law of rhythm, it really means that for every expansion, there is a contraction. It's also known as Newton's third law of physics. This is why I always laugh when people say that like manifestation and the universal laws are not, they're woo-woo or they're not real. And it's like, it's literal, it's actual science. So Newton's third law of physics, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It's the same thing as saying for every inhale, there has to be an exhale. For every expansion, there has to be a contraction. This is the natural way of the world, the natural laws of the universe. They can't be broken, right? Gravity, no matter what you try to do, unless you go into outer space, you cannot beat gravity. It's the same thing with the universal laws, and the universal law of rhythm is one of those. So when we talk about dips in our business, right, or a contraction in our business, it's normal. It's absolutely part of what is a healthy and productive way of living. It's a healthy and productive business if your business is expanding and contracting. So usually what happens is after like a really good high or you hit like a new level, there's like a little bit of a plateau period. And what you think that is a dip. But is it an actual dip, or are you just acclimating and regulating your central nervous system to that new level you're at, that it's feeling very scary? And when you get into that place of fear, that's actually what kicks you back. It's not actually that you're experiencing a dip. It's that your fear is taking you out of your genius. But as far as are dips in business normal? Yes. And if you are experiencing a dip, I want you to get to the place where you don't, it's not a, you're not reactionary to it. So for example, if I have a dip in my business and let's say like 1 month is lower than the month before, I'm really not reacting. I'm really not even caring. That really doesn't faze me. Even 2 months of a dip, I probably wouldn't be fazed by that. If after 3 months my business is still in a dip, I'm going to be curious as a CEO. And the problem is I see a lot of entrepreneurs who have these businesses, and because their addiction to fight or flight and their addiction to stress is still so prominent in their business, and you haven't transcended that as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, then whenever your business is not continuing to grow every single month, you get scared and then you get reactionary and you try to make all these changes, which then makes it very hard to see if what you were doing was working or not, because now you've changed the experiment, right? Just like in any experiment, there has to be a constant. There has to be something that is unchanged. And usually in like a science experiment, you're going to change one thing, right? It's like your control, right? You have a control and then you have something that changes. And that thing that changes, that's the only thing that changes. And so if you are reactionary in your business and every time there's a dip, you freak out and you try to course correct and pivot and do all these things differently, well, it's going to be really hard for you to tell if what you were doing was actually not working, or if it was just that you on a personal level and in your mindset had to acclimate to it first. So if you are experiencing a dip in your business, the first thing I want you to do is stop being reactionary to it. I want you to really get into the place where you can be a curious CEO, but not necessarily you're not reacting. You're not freaking out. You are literally just noticing what is happening, right? If I have 3 months of a dip, I'm going to say, okay, that is not normal. What's happening? and I'm going to investigate. I'm going to go through my product suite and I'm going to go, okay, is the offer, am I selling it enough? Like what's happening? Because usually if there is a dip in your business, it's one of three things. And I see one of three things usually happening. Number one, whatever you're selling isn't like whatever you're putting out there isn't selling because you're not selling it. Yes, I am, Danielle. I sell it all the time. Do you? How often are you selling on your social media, for example? How often are you selling whatever it is that you sell? Because sometimes I'll talk to people and I'll say, when's the last time you sold it? Or how are you selling this? Well, I'm selling it in my DMs. I'm selling it in my stories. Okay, great. When is the last time you put it in your story? I don't know, like 3 days ago. Right. So you're not selling that product. Even as a multi-6, almost 7-figure business, I still sell every single day. Now, it's not always, hi, look at me. I sell this. Do you want to buy it? In fact, it's not usually in that way. I am sharing testimonials. I am resharing what people are saying about my programs. I am telling personal stories that are going to attract people to whatever it is that I'm selling. I'm going to sell my offer through storytelling. I'm going to send it out in a newsletter. I'm going to post it in my free Facebook group. I'm going to put it in my feed. I'm going to create a really great piece of educational content. And then in the caption, I'm going to add a call to action that says something about the program that I'm launching. But every single day, I'm going to talk about it on my podcast. Every single day, I'm going to sell my offer. And normally, if something is not selling, it's because you're not selling it. And the excuse of like, oh, I don't want to be salesy. Well, here's the thing. If you have a social media in today's world and you work in the digital selling space, you are selling something online in the digital age, I'm sorry, but your social media is a tool. And if you're not using it as a tool, you are selling yourself short. And I hear people go, well, I don't want to, I just don't want to be on social media all the time. So that's why I don't really use social media to sell. What that tells me is there's actually a fear inside of you and like you don't actually believe that you're worthy of it. And so the kind of cop out is, well, I just don't want to use social media because that is actually easier than saying, I don't actually believe that I'm worthy of it. I don't actually believe that it's possible for me. So again, it's going back to that addiction to praise, that addiction to outside validation, that addiction to hustle. You actually do have to get rid of those things in order to be a successful CEO. Otherwise, you're going to run your business in this space of fight or flight and struggle forever because you haven't transcended the need to run your business from a place of personal or from outside validation. So, are you selling every day? Number one thing to look at. Are you actually selling what it is that you sell? Or are you just like casually mentioning it, but it's actually not being sold? Number two, maybe it's not easy to buy, right? So sometimes I'll see people, I'll have clients that are saying, oh, well, yeah, I'm selling this thing. And so what I did is I made a post on my feed, and in the caption I wrote a call to action to watch my stories, and then in my stories I'm talking about that offer some more, and then I'm telling them to DM me for more information. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you just post a link to it and make it really easy for the customer to buy? And I think we get it into our heads that we have to over-explain things. But if you're over-explaining everything in your business, you're confusing your audience. There are people who need a bigger sales page. And if that's the case, I say make a sales page, have it there. And if somebody wants information on whatever it is that you're selling, there's a sales page for them to go and read it. And then there's also people that don't need that, right? Like I'm not a person, because I am a CEO and this is how my brain works and how I'm a person who listens to my intuition. And there's other people like this that like when I see an offer I want, I feel the pull and I jump. I don't need to read a long sales page. I just need you to send me a link so I can buy it. And I've seen this happen before where I'll be interested in something and I'll reach out to the person. I'll say, oh, I really would love to buy this. How do I buy this? And they'll say, well, what are you looking for? And they'll try to ask all these questions. And I'm like, no, I just needed you to make it easy for me. And so sometimes if something's not selling and therefore you're in a dip in your business, a good question to ask yourself is this actually easy to buy? Is this pretty straightforward in terms of the sales process for the customer experience? And then the third thing to look at if something isn't selling and therefore it's creating a dip in your business is maybe you don't believe that it can sell, right? And this goes back to your money mindset. This goes back to, are you working with any money saboteurs? For a long time, I was really working with a couple saboteurs, like the dependent, and then I was the overcompensator, where I didn't actually believe I was worthy to hold money. And so every time I would get money, I would spend it. And that's why I wasn't seeing like the lasting success that I had. And so really working yourself into a new mindset and realizing that like whatever it is that you sell, you are a master of, and people want to know more. People want what you have. And if you're not actually selling it, it's not going to sell. And if it's not easy to buy, people aren't going to buy it. And if you don't believe that it can sell, or that it's, your worth purchasing from, then that is the energy that you are putting out into the field, into the collective consciousness. And you can feel that, right? Like if you ever, and the perfect way I can explain this is, if you ever walked into a restaurant and like immediately were like, we're never coming back here, not because the food was bad, not because it wasn't clean, but because the people in there were miserable and you could tell they just didn't love their jobs, and that was enough to get you to not come back. Well, the same thing goes for your customers. If people don't think that you love what you do, or that you can do what you do, then they're not going to buy from you. And that could be the reason for your dip. So if that's the case, I highly suggest hiring a mentor who can help you tap into that's why this is a brilliant reason to join I'm That Bitch Mini Mastermind, because it literally is going to teach you how to dig into your subconscious mind and find worthiness that later you can take and apply to your business. Even though the mastermind itself is not for business, everything is connected. And if you heal these limiting beliefs and you heal your subconscious and you tap into your reptilian brain so that consciously and in your frontal cortex, you can start to make different decisions and you can start to act a different way and hold yourself in a different way, then you're not going to see random dips as a bad thing. B, you're not going to overcomplicate them. And C, you're going to know what to do about them so you can move through them really easily. Right? So that's something to think about if you're having dips in your business. The next thing I want you to think about as if you have dips in your business, or what you can do about it if you have a dip in your business, is I want you to really get into the mindset of, is everything makes sense, right? If you're trying to sell something in a way that you know is no longer working, and you're trying to just like keep doing it like someone else is doing it because maybe they found success a few years ago, you cannot be surprised when what you're selling isn't selling. Like you just can't. It doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, if you're beating a dead horse, then it's not going to sell. And to me, that makes sense. And I think what we do is we give our power away. When we see dips in our business, we automatically assume that it doesn't make sense. We don't know why it's happening. It's so stressful. I don't know why this is happening like this. But like the question is, if you really got honest with yourself and you were like, does this actually not make sense? Or does it actually make perfect sense based on my actions? And I think when you can start to get into this headspace of everything in business makes sense, everything that I'm doing makes sense, everything that I've done makes sense, every result or lack thereof that I have makes sense. Once you can take that kind of ownership over your business, then I'm not saying you're never going to have dips, because again, they're normal. And I think as a CEO, you have to get into the mindset. If you want to be a true CEO, you have to get into the mindset that like dips are a natural part of the evolution of business. But if you also own that everything makes sense, well, then now you can do something about it. It's like, oh yeah, that offer didn't sell the way I wanted it to, because actually, if I really get honest with myself, I didn't sell it as much as I could, or it was really complicated, or I didn't actually believe that it could sell, so it didn't sell, or my energy wasn't aligned with it, right? Like y'all, I've done this before where because when I started entrepreneurship, I just carried all of my conditioning of like work until you grind, like work, grind, hustle yourself into the ground. And like the more you could do that, the more successful you would become. I carried that conditioning right into entrepreneurship with me. So every single month I was putting out a new program. Every single month I was putting out a new like masterclass. And even if I didn't feel like I wanted to, and there were a few programs, and this is kind of what shifted my perspective, is there was a few programs in that time that didn't really sell. I had a few flops. And when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, that made sense. It made sense that it flopped because I didn't actually want to be doing that. I didn't actually want to be putting out that offer, but I was doing it because I thought I had to, or that I should, in order to make money. And what I've learned in my business is that anything that I say I should or I need to do that probably is not what I should be doing, because needing and shoulding all over my life in my business as a generator in human design is a one-way ticket to burnout. And so you have to get into this mindset that everything makes sense. And the way that you do that is to truly own all of your actions as a CEO. And then the third thing, because these are kind of like big pieces, but the third big thing you can do if there is a dip, and this is more when, if you've had that more than 3 months where there's been a dip for more than 3 months, and you look back and you're like, okay, it is selling. I've been selling it every day. I've stayed really consistent in that. It's really easy to buy. I can post a link. It takes them right to the shopping cart. I believe that this is powerful. I believe what I'm selling is really, really powerful. I know that these dips are normal and I'm not overreacting. At this point, I'm just curious and I'm just trying to see if there's something that we can like do, or, there's a pivot we can make that will kind of re-spark and re-engage buyers. And, everything makes sense. Like if you're truly in that headspace, then you can do what I call FAAFO. And that's fuck around and find out, right? It is the best, sometimes it's the most fun for sure. And it's also just the best thing to do for your business sometimes. Like if you've just been like grinding, selling one program over and over and over again, or you've just been in the same like launch pattern where it's like sell the program, before the program you do a masterclass to like intro the program, and you just are like, you know what? I want to fuck around and find out. I want to do something different. I want to offer something that maybe I don't always offer. For me, this summer, it was and this didn't even come from a dip. This just came from me being bored. I was bored and I was like, I want to do something fun. So I launched Expand, my my in-person VIP experience. And I wanted to keep it super intimate, only 2 clients. They were going to stay at my house, and that starts today. So that happened and I did it and it sold out. And today is the day it starts. We have like a welcome dinner and our opening ceremony tonight. And we have all these beautiful plans all weekend. And I wanted it to be this like super luxurious experience for 2 clients who were willing to invest in themselves to come to this. And I wanted it to be all like an all-inclusive thing where it's like once they paid their registration fee, like that was it. Like we booked their flights, and I fucked around and found out I never did that before. And guess what? Like I'm having so much fun with it. and everybody else gets to then see how much fun I'm having with it, which only added to my business. It only added to the value that I was able to give to my clients. And I had so many more people jump into programs because they were like, wow, that's really cool that that's being offered. And there was joy coming out of my business. So then offers that maybe I was like, not as enthusiastic to sell because I'd been selling them a lot, all of a sudden they had more interest. And so sometimes in a dip, consistency is key. And I don't believe that you can get to like $100,000 months if you're not willing to be consistent every single day. So this is FAAFO is in no way telling you not to be consistent, but is there a third option? It's either, and this is one thing that I learned from my coach was like, okay, so you have option 1 is to, continue down the path that you're on. And that's no longer serving you because you don't want to be on calls all the time. And you don't want to just like be putting out new offers whenever, because you've kind of broken up with the version of yourself that's addicted to outside validation. So it actually doesn't feel good to overextend your energy like that. Option B was to raise my prices, streamline my containers, and like only worry about my 3 signature options, a low ticket membership and my high ticket mastermind and private coaching. Like that was the second option. And we did that. And then she's like, is there a third option? And third option for me was fuck around and find out. What do I want to offer? What do I want to throw in there? Is it a retreat for you? Is it a in-person experience? Is it a mastermind? Is it a mini mastermind? Is it a bundle? Is it a new hobby that has nothing to do with your business, but gives you inspiration that you can later take back to your business, right? It's such a fun thing to add. And it also is a good reminder that like there are no rules. It's your business. You get to do literally whatever you want. And when you really start to own that and embody that, that's where the power really happens in your business. So to sum all this up, if you're having a dip in your business, number one, as a CEO, you have to start to understand that dips are normal and they are a natural evolution of business. Just like the universal law of rhythm, contraction and expansion. If you go to inhale for a really long time, eventually you have to exhale. And when you exhale just as long or longer, that inhale can be so much bigger. So if you're in a current dip, treat it as you are contracting, and that contraction is happening so you can just shoot forward and inhale and expand in the most beautiful way. The second thing to think about if you're having a dip is like, actually, why isn't it selling? Is it because you're not selling it? Is it because it's not really easy to buy? Is it because you're overcomplicating it? Is it because you don't actually believe that you're worthy of selling it or that it can sell? So start to tap into the why of it, and not from a reactionary place, but from a curious place. Because again, dips are normal and you don't need to be reactionary to them. It's more about just staying curious and just making sure that all of your bases are checked. And then everything you do will make sense. So if you're in a dip, does everything make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, then what are you not owning about this? Because I believe that everything in business makes sense. And that is because I own every single part of my business. I don't outsource my power. I don't give away my power to anything. So like, even if it's like a job that somebody on my team, like an assistant, is doing and it doesn't happen correctly, it makes sense to me because maybe I haven't done my part in creating the standard operating procedure, an SOP for them so that they can do their job well. Well, that makes sense that it didn't get done the way I wanted it to get done because I didn't do my part. So this is just an example. Like, does it make sense? And get into the place where it does make sense, because if it makes sense, well, now you can shift it. Now you can change it. Okay. And then the last thing you can do, and something you can play with the dips in your business, is FAAFO, which is fuck around and find out. What do you want to offer? What do you want to throw in there? Is there something different you want to do for this moment to, re-engage your audience, to spark excitement in yourself? Because if you're excited, everyone's excited, right? If you're bored, everyone's bored. If you're not into it, no one's into it. If you're excited and you're on fire and you're full of love and joy and just like absolute pure excitement for what you're doing, that is what's going to radiate out to your audience. And then that is what's going to spark excitement in your business from clients. So I hope this is helpful. If it was, go ahead and share it. Tag me in, whatever you say about it. If you have any questions, you can always pose a question on my Instagram or anywhere else. And just as a reminder, if you go to Apple Podcasts, we're trying to grow this show. And a fun fact about podcasting is we get all of our metrics from Apple Podcasts. So I don't really care if you listen to my show on Spotify, but even if you listen to it on Spotify, if you wouldn't mind going into Apple Podcasts, clicking on my podcast on the daily, scrolling down to where you can write a review and leave a rating. I would love it if you could leave me a 5-star rating and write me a review. Screenshot that before you post it, because it takes a couple days to upload. Screenshot it, send what you wrote to my team, hey@daniellemccleary.com, and we will give you a discount on any program or any container that I have. And that's just my way of saying thank you for helping me grow this show. I love this podcast. We're coming up on 300 episodes soon, which is absolutely insane and amazing. And we're, crossing over the 250,000 mark, which is also insane and crazy. And, I'm just really grateful that so many people are wanting to listen to this show and share with their friends. And I'm happy to give you a discount if you're willing to give me a review. So on that, I will see you back with our August episodes. In August, we're going to be doing a series of episodes. So I don't know, I haven't ever really done this before, but I really want to talk more about the quantum field, and I really want to talk more about manifestation. And it's something that I am so naturally good at that I don't always think to share, because it always just dawns on me. It never dawns on me that this is not something that comes as naturally to others. And so we're going to do a whole series about it. So August is like, we can call it an ego series. We could call it the manifestation series. We can call it whatever we want, but every episode is going to be a different part of manifestation and how you can start to implement some of these things into your life to become like the best version of you. So you're going to want to listen to every episode. You're going to want to come back for part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that will start next week on August 1st. So I love y'all, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.